A devil in sheep's clothing is hiding in plain sight in the wholesome community of Wichita, Kansas. He's a father and a city rule enforcer by day and a cunning killer by night. BTK terrorized the Sunflower State for more than 3 decades. On this week's episode of Two Crime Newsies, we dive deep into a case and learn how an unsuspecting clue left by the killer himself led to his eventual capture. Hey everyone, I'm Jet, and thanks so much for being with us this week for another episode of Two Crime Newsies. You're good. And this is Tina.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Good job. I want to say, if you love our podcast and love what we are doing, check out our website, buymeacoffee.com, and you can join us in fueling our podcast. It's greatly appreciated because it's also, we are loving this. Before we jump into today's episode, if you haven't already caught on by my intro, this episode is not for kids. We're going to be discussing some super dark things. And Tina, I feel like you're going to need your noise canceling Bose headphones that we had talked about before.
I'll go get them.
Because I feel like this is a lot.
Yes, is a lot. I watched this at night too. That was a bad idea.
Bad choice.
I know.
I should have warned you.
I had a feeling, it was the BTK episode. I knew what I was getting myself into, but the timing just didn't work out. I had to do it at nighttime, and it was a bad choice. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can honestly say, I have been fascinated by BTK for as long as I can remember. I think it's mainly because the guy who was eventually caught was just an ordinary guy. He was just an ordinary, Joe Schmo. He was no one special. He was a dad, he was a husband, and he worked for the city. Completely normal guy. If you saw him, you couldn't pick him out of a lineup, which makes him all the scarier, I think.
Truly. Movies, TV shows usually portray serial killers as monsters. They look scary, dangerous, they don't act normal, and usually they don't have average lives. And I'm always looking at people suspiciously at places like the grocery store.
Are you a serial killer?
Wondering if they're a psychopath. Are you a psychopath lurking amongst us? But I wouldn't have picked out this guy, and I probably wouldn't have picked out the Long Island serial killer either. Yeah. Their ability to be this disturbed and also blend into society is truly terrifying.
I agree with you on that. I read a statistic the other day that said that in your lifetime, you have smiled at least 14 people who have thought about killing you.
Stop it.
Yes.
Where did you read that?
I don't know, but I read it somewhere, probably on Instagram, a pop-up thing,
Oh, those aren't real.
But you never know.
I need to Google that. That's really scary. That can't be true.
I'm sure it's
14
true.
people?
It came off of Instagram.
It's on the interwebs. It's true.
Yeah. So if you haven't already caught on, this week we're talking about BTK.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a show on Netflix called Catching Killers. Bind, Torture, Kill, BTK. It's season 2, episode 1. Now the show starts in Wichita, Kansas, in City Hall. It takes place on March 22nd of 2004. And when I was watching this and they popped up March of 2004, I was like, that's spring break time. I was probably out on the beach somewhere. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when this all started happening again.
I mean, yeah, you were probably on a beach. It was spring break time. I was working as a reporter back in 2004. I had a big girl job.
Well, I was in high school.
Out of high school, out of college. And even though I was glued to the news back then, I don't have any memory of the BT case back in 2004. But I also don't know what I wore last week or what I ate yesterday, so I think I have to work on my memory.
So it could just be a toss-up.
It could just be me.
So the show starts with an older looking gentleman in a blue suit and ostrich cowboy boots who looks like he could be a super fun grandpa, but he also looks like someone who you don't want to mess with.
Right.
You do not give any lip to this guy, as the kids like to say these days, or did back then.
Is that what they say?
I feel like that's what they say.
I have no idea what the kids say.
This guy's name is Detective Kelly Otis. And Otis says it's a fine day in the spring of 2004 when a captain in the homicide unit comes into the office holding an envelope. His partner opened the envelope, and inside were 3 Polaroid pictures on a piece of paper. And the Polaroid pictures were of a woman named Vicki Waverly. And police instantly knew that it was Vicki Waverly because they had investigated her murder back in 1986. And police instantly knew that the killer was the one who sent them the pictures.
So the actual Polaroid pictures were not in the envelope. Instead, it looked like the killer had laid the photos on a copy machine and sent the printed paper to police. Also, police know it is from the killer because investigators don't take Polaroids at crime scenes.
Yeah, like you remember Polaroid cameras, like those big things?
Yeah, I mean, I know what they look like. It isn't. They don't age well. It would be a bad idea to use that as evidence.
So at the bottom of this paper with the 3 Polaroid pictures on it was a symbol. And that symbol meant only one thing: he's back. And police knew it was the infamous killer BTK, bind, torture, kill, who had been murdering men, women, and children in Wichita, Kansas since 1974.
That's crazy. 30 years later, this psychopath is back. And you mentioned this in a recent episode, how crazy it is that some criminals call in, or in this case, mail in evidence of their own crimes.
Stupid in my opinion. I mean, I'm glad they do it because it leads to their eventual capture, but stupid.
It's insane that they do that. I'm not mad about it. They're helping police catch the bandit. Go for it. Mail in your crimes. Call in your tips. It's a great idea.
It's a great idea. Well, at the start of the episode, we're introduced to Detective Otis and his cowboy boots and blue suit and tough guy exterior.
Yeah,
right?
I like him.
I like him too. And he's like this no nonsense grandpa, and also his partner Detective Dana Gouge, who sits in front of the interview cameras wearing this knitted button down sweater. I looked at it and I got super itchy right away. Because those things are super scratchy.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but I see what you're saying.
I instantly got itchy. And he has these cute little black frame glasses. He could give Santa Claus a run for the money. If Santa ever needs a step in at Christmas time, call Detective Gouge.
He does look pretty jolly.
He looks like a good dude. I can see why they work together and work together well.
So well, because they kind of seem like good cop, bad cop.
Yep.
Detective Gouge tells us it's been decades since BTK has communicated with police, and I wonder what he's been doing all of these years and what made him suddenly send an envelope of evidence to police out of nowhere. The detective says before receiving the Polaroid pictures, people assumed BTK had died, maybe he was in prison, or he even moved away.
So Detective Gouge says that when the homicide unit got the letter in 2004, that BTK was back. As soon as that happened, a task force was put together with himself, Detective Otis, and Detective Tim Ralph. Tim Ralph looks to me like the quintessential homicide investigator who gets shit done. Excuse my language, but he does. I feel like he's just got that homicide exterior to him.
Homicide exterior?
He gets stuff done. He is a no-nonsense man. He shows up to this like interview with like tousled hair, blue jeans, and walks around like he's gonna set the world on fire. I like him. And he will set the world on fire if it means catching this guy, or this bandit, as my kids like to say. I like him. All. Like, all of them are great, in my opinion, these three detectives.
Agree. We do find out a little bit more about these three guys. Detective Otis tells us his father died when he was young, and he was raised by his mom. He went to the police academy at 21, and after 11 years as a patrol officer, he was promoted to detective, and that's where he started working with Detective Dana Gouch. And Detective Gouch tells us he grew up wanting to be a detective, and he was a rule follower.
You are also a rule follower.
That's right. I'm a rule follower. I love it. I should have been a detective, maybe. I don't have a homicide exterior.
You do not have a homicide exterior.
That's good, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So Detective Ralph tells the camera he remembers BTK from his childhood. He grew up in the time when BTK was out there killing people. He describes the sheer terror that was Wichita way back then. He says he didn't have to worry about the boogeyman or anything like that. Your fear was this brutal murderer.
I think the worst part about growing up is realizing the real monsters out there are actual people. Mm-hmm. Being a kid and being scared of ghosts, those were the good old days, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things the task force does first is they go through the old photos of the files that they collected for the BTK case, and the camera zooms in on a family photo of the Oteros.
Yep. So let's go back in time now to the first murder, okay? It's January 1974. The song Show and Tell by Al Wilson.
Oh no, you were going to say A.I. Wilson.
I was going to say A.I. You called me on that, Tina. Shame on you.
A.I. Wilson?
Zip it.
That's what AI has done to us. It has completely replaced the name Al. Nobody sees Al anymore. We see AI. Poor Al.
Poor Al. Okay, let me rephrase that. Okay, let me say that again. So It's January 1974. The song Show and Tell by Al Wilson and The Joker by the Steve Miller Band topped the Billboard Top 100 songs. Mm-hmm. The price of gas is 53 cents a gallon.
Woo!
And houses around Wichita are starting to look normal again after being decked out with Christmas decor in the weeks prior. There's snow on the ground and a chill in the air on the morning of January 15th, 1974, as a madman would enter the home of the Otero family. The small home with a detached garage, white picket fence around it, sits in a safe neighborhood. Kids walk to school, they play outside without fearing the boogeyman, but that all changed when BTK broke into the Otero's home. He made his way to the back of the house and cut the phone line, then calmly walked to the back door and let himself inside the family home. Once inside, BTK was able to overpower Mr. and Mrs. Otero and isolate the parents from the kids. BTK strangled Mr. Otero, who was a retired Air Force officer, and Mrs. Otero, and their 9-year-old son, Joseph. He then turned his attention to 11-year-old Josephine Otero. Police found her after she had been tied up and hung from a sewer pipe in the basement. And on the show, we see pictures of the sewer pipe, and just seeing that picture and knowing how scared this little girl must have been rattles me to my core. I have kids around that age, and I would do anything in my power to protect my kids. And it breaks my heart thinking about how scared little Josephine must have been.
I can't imagine why anyone would hurt a child. And I can't believe that this monster's first victim was an entire family.
I followed this case, as I mentioned, for a long, long time. And the Oteros actually had a couple of other kids. And the other kids were older and they had gone to school already. and they found their parents that day.
Oh, gosh.
So the oldest son ended up coming into the house, and the other children had stayed outside. So apparently Joseph and Josephine, the two little ones who were still in the house, they went to school later in the day. They went like a little later in the morning. And so when the older brother and the other siblings came home from school that afternoon, they walked in and were like, the dog was in the backyard, which was super strange. And this was not mentioned in the show. This is just things that I know from having studied this for a while. The dog was in the backyard, which was very strange. So instantly he was like, you guys stay outside, like I'm gonna go in the house. And so he went inside the house and he found the parents. They called for help. That's how the family was found.
That's terrible.
It's terrible.
That one thing I didn't like about the show is how they don't mention the full story of not only the Oteros, but some of the other victims we don't even hear about. You mentioned them because you know about them, but I feel like there could have been other things. I know they were trying to condense a lot of information into an hour time frame. Yeah. I feel like there could have been other things that were edited out in place of telling us about these people.
Exactly. Since I've done like extensive research on BTK over the years, it's one of those cases that's always like truly fascinated me. And for what it's worth, I want to say that Josephine Otero, the little girl in the basement, was not sexually assaulted, but police were able to like recover some DNA of the suspect in the basement, and I'm not going to go into what it is. I think it's gross. I don't want to talk about it. This would become very common with BTK, and it would eventually lead to his capture.
We see close-ups next of 3 more photos, each one a different young woman, and each one savagely killed by BTK.
So BTK didn't wait long to take another life. A little over 3 months later, in April of 1974, 21-year-old Catherine Bright was killed in her home. Again, this is not something that was mentioned in the show, but Catherine was actually at home with her brother at the time when this happened, and the two of them ended up confronting BTK in the house and like fought with him. And her brother ended up getting shot at the time, and BTK thought he was dead, but he survived. So Catherine was killed that day in April of 1974, and the next year, it was a couple of years later, on March 17th, 1977, until BTK struck again. So he went dormant. He went underground. Nobody knew anything. You know, maybe he was in prison, maybe he was wherever. And on March 17th, 1977, Shirley Vian was 24 years old, and she was a single mom, and she was home with 3 of her kids. And BTK got into the house and attacked. On another documentary that I have watched, one of the 3 kids was interviewed, and he says he ended up hiding in a closet, and he heard what happened to his mom. He talks about the lasting impact on him and his family members, and it's terrible.
Right.
And then a couple of months later, in December of 1977, on December 8th, 25-year-old Nancy Fox was tied up, tortured, and killed in her Wichita house. And Detective Ralph at this point says that BTK sent multiple communications to the media. Like, he was taunting police, almost like a catch me if you can type thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the messages he sent to the TV station was, and I'm going to read it here verbatim. It says, the code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them, BTK.
And that's where his nickname comes from. He gave it to himself. I prefer SCUM.
Scum?
Yes. That's what he is.
Yep, I agree. So this takes us to April 27th of 1985, all right? When 53-year-old Maureen Hedge went missing from her home. She was found along a dirt road about a week after she was last seen. Police determined that she had been strangled, and a pair of pantyhose was found near her body. I want you to remember Miss Hedge for a reason, because she is going to play a very big role in this case later on when police manage to catch this bottom dweller, the scum that Tina likes to say, that is known as BTK. He ended up, after Maureen Hedges' murder, going dormant. He disappeared until September 16th of 1986 when 20-year-old married mom named Vicky Wagerly is attacked inside of her house and killed. BTK then slips back into the shadows and doesn't reemerge for another 5 years. 5 years when he breaks in the home of 62-year-old Dolores Davis. He ends up killing Dolores and takes her body from her home and dumps her on under a bridge. And she was there for almost 2 weeks until somebody finally found her. And police determined that she had been strangled and that her hands and feet had been tied up, also with a pantyhose. In the show at this point, we fast forward to 2004 when the new letter, including those Polaroids, is sent to police. It's been 25 years since the last killing, and he is reaching out again. He's taunting police again. Detective Otis says if BTK starts communicating like he did back then when these original killings happened, then they would have a chance to finally catch him because of all the advances. There have been advances in DNA and fingerprinting. You name it, it's gotten better over time. So police knew that they could use this. They could use his communications to their advantage. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Let's catch him.
Also, the more he communicates, the more he makes mistakes. And they just need him to make one mistake so they can try to get him.
And the one thing BTK wanted to do was spread panic. And the way to do this is to get the word out that BTK is back.
Ugh. Mm-hmm. But that's not the only thing the scumbucket wanted, Jen. He also wants attention. So one of the detectives on the show says they used the media to appeal to his narcissism.
That's smart. Because you know he wants to talk.
Yeah, obviously.
Which still, I don't understand, but cool. Right on you, Mr. BTK. Just keep talking.
You can't understand a psychopath. Like, you just can't understand crazy. Don't argue with me, Jen.
You're not crazy. The police rally and hold a press conference, and it's not just a local news conference. This thing goes national.
And boy, do they do a great job in this press conference. We see a clip of one of the detectives saying to the media, "We think this individual doing this would be very interesting to talk to." Way to appeal to the narcissist.
Yeah.
They are giving him exactly what he wants and hoping in return that the scumbucket will give detectives what they want, which is more communication, more letters, more mail, something that can lead them to who this guy is.
Bring it on. And with this news conference, the fear and the panic, as you can imagine, spreads like wildfire through Wichita, Kansas, like it did back in the 1970s, because the killer could be anyone. And then 6 weeks after his last letter and the news conference, BTK writes again.
6 weeks must have felt like a lifetime. 6 weeks of fear. 6 weeks of police waiting to see if what they did worked.
Yep. So he sends a letter to the ABC affiliate station in Wichita, and police immediately picked up the letter and took it to the DNA lab for testing. And the message inside of this envelope, you may be wondering what it was. Inside the envelope, police found a piece of paper with a homemade word search puzzle that included words like victim, follow, some really odd ones too, including insurance man, lost pet, serviceman.
This is irritating. Having to complete a word search puzzle. Just freaking say what you want, sir. Detectives say Scumbucket was clearly playing games and he was enjoying it. Yuck. Also, I have so many thoughts about BTK communicating through the TV station. Jen, can you imagine getting this letter at the TV station? I would probably think it was some kind of sick joke.
Agreed.
Also, can you imagine how annoying it probably was for the competing news station to cover this update? What do you do? Do you send a photographer to get B-roll of the competing news station? Do they let you into the newsroom to interview the person who opened the letter? What a missed opportunity if the news station that didn't get the letter also didn't come out with a station promo like Channel 5 News. We cover the killers. We don't entertain them.
That's a good one.
BTK watches the other guys. Wichita watches Channel 8 News.
I like it, Tina. You're hired for promos.
Thank you. Back to the letter. Or should I say a word search puzzle? Police are hoping for any shred of evidence, even a tiny hair, that could be tested for DNA.
Well, turns out there was no DNA, no evidence whatsoever on the paper or the envelope. So again, a dead lead. So police turn back to the phone tip line and keep looking over crime scene evidence from the 1970s killing, hoping that they'll get something out of it.
Detectives say the phones were ringing non-stop with tips. There were over 400 tips in the first 24 hours of opening the tip line, and over 1,000 tips in just 2 days. And while that's going on, detectives are still working their first angle, because remember, they're digging up all the old evidence from the BTK cases, and we find out the evidence in each of those cases was well taken care of and well preserved, which is exactly what they need.
Good job, Wichita Police Department. We hear that the forensic lab went back and started retesting samples from all the old cases. And because of the retesting using new DNA technology, the police were able to put together a DNA profile of the killer. And the DNA they used was the DNA that was left behind in the basement of the first killing, the Otero family murder case.
We find out every time police would get a lead, they would collect a DNA sample. They would test it from the DNA sample from the Otero case, but so far, nothing.
Police collected as many DNA samples as they could get, but nothing panned out. And the months just kept ticking by. 6 months, 7 months, 8 months.
Frustration is mounting. And all these months, detectives say they are consumed with this case, working nonstop, sacrificing time with family, and fun fact, they are fueled by Mountain Dew, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of.
I love a Mountain Dew.
Do you?
I do. Like a cold, crisp Mountain Dew. Not as much as coffee. Again, little pitch for our buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies.
It's an interesting choice, Mountain Dew. According to Google AI, it has more caffeine than an espresso shot. So I suppose if you're not a fan of espresso, you reach for the Dew.
The Dew?
Yeah, isn't that what they used to call it in the 80s? The Dew.
Considering
Do the
by
Dew.
1990, I was only 4 years old, I probably wouldn't know.
No, I have no response.
And not to mention, I just want to say, you said Google AI and gave me a bunch of earlier when I said AI Wilson instead of Al Wilson.
You would have pronounced this Google Al.
I probably would have. Oh. So back to the case. This takes us to January 25th of 2005. Detective Ralph says he was working late and received a phone call about a strange package that was taped to a stop sign on the outskirts of town. And inside, we hear there were multiple index cards, and the title was Death on a Cold January Morning. And Detective Ralph says it was a gruesome story retelling of what happened in the Otero house. How the family was chosen, how the house was chosen, how the killer went inside, what he did to each one of the victims. It's sickening.
The detective says the notes had so much detail that there was no doubt the killer wrote it. They want to badly catch this guy before he kills anyone else, and he's playing with them, taunting detectives with his notes. But detectives have notes of their own. Tips are still pouring in from the public, and one of the tips is especially interesting because it matches what detectives think about the killer. They believe he's intelligent, that he likely lives alone, and they believe that back in the 70s, he was in his 20s, which would put him in his 50s at this point in the investigation.
All right.
One of the tips police receive is about a professor in his 50s who lived with his mother until she died. So detectives decide to go knock on the professor's door. They describe how the door opens slowly from the inside, and immediately they see someone holding a butcher knife.
Sketchy. No one answers their door like that.
Nobody answers their door like that. Not even me, and I'm afraid of everything.
You are.
Detectives tell the man to put the knife away because they have questions for him. So the man goes inside, puts the knife away, comes back, and lets detectives in. And at this point, Jen, I'm thinking, why are they going inside? This is a red flag.
It is. It really is.
Detectives describe the place as dark and dingy, and they spot some rope with knots lying around. Another red flag for a BTK killer.
Yep, he ties people up.
These two detectives now think that they are onto this guy. They think he could be the guy. So they take his DNA, test it as quickly as possible, and then they find out it's not a match.
It's just some other crazy person.
I know I've said this before, but this is exactly why you have to test everything to find the right guy. Because this person fit the profile. He was creepy, acting weird, holding a butcher knife when he opened the door. But being a weirdo apparently doesn't make you a serial killer, at least not in this case.
Maybe in a different one.
Maybe in a different case.
Hey, maybe he was the guy you encountered on the street in Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, with the hoodie who gave you evil eyes.
Oh, that was scary.
Maybe it was him.
Well, I don't think that guy had a knife.
Oh.
Well, not that I saw.
Not that you saw. Ooh. All right. So, as we all know by now, BTK loves attention. He thrives on it. So, to get his name in the media again, he writes another letter. This one he leaves in the downtown Wichita library, like the public library. When police get a hold of the letter, they read it and are worried. The letter, which we see a copy of on the screen, reads, "I have spotted a female, a latchkey kid. Just got to work out the details. I'm much older and have to condition myself carefully. I think fall or winter will be just right for the hit." And for those of you who don't know, a latchkey kid, and this is according to Google Owl.
Oh boy.
Google AI. A latchkey kid is a school-age child who goes home to an empty house after school and uses a key to let themselves in because their parents are not home. They're still at work.
And oh no, this is exactly what detectives feared. Their hope when they had that news conference several months back was to be able to get the killer to communicate with them, send them some information, or accidentally send them his DNA so that they can catch him before he kills someone else.
Needless to say, this message lit a fire under police, even more so because BTK said he had picked a new victim and that victim was a child.
Detectives say as the time is passing without the killer getting caught, he's getting more bold and he thinks he can get away with this. Detectives can't rest. They literally cannot sleep now knowing about this possible child victim. They're working late into the night, they're going home, they're trying to sleep, but their minds are racing. They give up their sleep, get dressed, go back to work, sometimes as early as 4 a.m.
And of course, while police are trying to figure out a way to catch him, BTK shines the spotlight back on himself by sending another letter to the ABC news station in Wichita, Kansas.
Here we go, Jen. Another opportunity for a promo from the competition. Trusted news. 0 serial killer endorsements.
Oh, that's a good one. I love it, Tina. So this message reads, I'm going to read it here verbatim. Where between 69th Street North and 77th Street North on Seneca Street have you or PD received number 7 at Home Depot drop site January 8th of 2005? And what did this mean? BTK was telling police about 2 packages or messages from him that police have not yet found. He was giving them clues. And in my mind, this guy is toying with police. He's loving this like cat and mouse game. I feel like he's the cat trying to swat at the mice But as some of y'all may remember in the cartoon Tom and Jerry, Tom the cat is always outsmarted by Jerry the mouse. And Jerry is always one step ahead of Tom. So police are going to use this.
Jen, how did a cartoon make a cat so unlikable and a mouse so likable? No one likes mice. Except for Jerry.
Jerry is the mouse.
Also, I know, that's the only mouse people like. Also, here we go again with the killer calling police on himself. The narcissism is crazy.
Agreed. So police drive out to the first location, which is in a rural area north of town, and recover a white cornflake cereal box with a doll inside of it tied up to a sewer pipe. This was supposed to be Josephine Otero. It's disgusting.
It's awful. We see a photo of what the cereal box looked like leaned up against the pole, and it looks pretty weird. It looks out of place leaning up against the street sign like that. But at the same time, if I drove by it, I would just assume this was trash that fell out of someone's vehicle. And I wouldn't pick it up. Does that make me bad for not picking up litter?
No, you're good. I don't think most people do.
Although detectives think this killer is trying to be clever by using a cereal box for a serial killer.
I had a friend when I was like 4 and we went trick-or-treating and she dressed up like a cereal box.
Oh, because she wasn't
a serial killer.
She just wanted to be a cereal box.
For Halloween.
Okay.
Just wanted to throw that little factoid out. Isn't that interesting though? That's an interesting costume.
It's definitely an interesting choice.
I mean, I was always like a witch or a vampire. Like I was more like the dark things, but yeah.
Yeah.
Not a cereal box, though.
No, I did easy things like, an angel where you just throw a halo on your head, or a cat where you put the ears on.
You would do both of those.
Put a tail.
Put a tail.
A ghost, you just like throw a white sheet over you. I like to do comfortable costumes. Like anything that could allow me to wear pajamas.
I like it. Comfort is key.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. So at this point, the killer had also mentioned Home Depot in this last letter, in this last communication. And they didn't find anything in the store. So police put a sign up in the employee break room asking if anyone had anything strange happen to them at the store or in the parking lot, anything at all, to call police.
I thought this was really smart of detectives because the cereal box by the road looked like trash. So what if whatever he put in Home Depot also looked like trash to someone? Maybe they remember throwing it away or seeing it looking odd or out of place.
And then it came. The phone call police were waiting for. An employee who had been out of town on vacation came forward about a suspicious package that had been left in the bed of his pickup truck while it was parked in the Home Depot parking lot. And what was the suspicious item? You guessed it. A cereal box. Another cereal box from a serial killer.
I would have just thrown it away. The employee kept it, and he tells detectives he has the box at home.
Detective Otis immediately jumped into action and headed toward the employee's house. And when he arrived, he came face to face with the Special K cereal box on the employee's kitchen table. And inside, there was a note that read, "Can I communicate with Floppy and not be traced to a computer? Be honest. I will try a Floppy for a test run sometime in the near future. February or March." Okay, so some of our listeners may not have any clue what I'm talking about here, like what a floppy is, like except for like floppy ears on a dog. So, okay, this is it. I also just want to say, how stupid is this guy for telling the police to be honest? Like, the craziness of this. I mean, come on. They are hunting you and they will try anything to catch you. They should not be honest with you. I say, tell BTK a lie. You want to tell him to go, you want to tell him a lie to make it easier to catch him, throw him in prison, and toss away the key. Like, just be done with him.
Are you going to explain a floppy?
I was really hoping you would catch on to that note in the notes and you talk about a floppy.
I had a feeling that that's what you wanted.
I kind of put these little like dangly bits in the show notes. So I write the show notes first and then I send them to Tina and Tina adds in her things. And I kind of put these little things in there, and I'm like, it's like a little carrot that I'm dangling in front of Tina. Come on, Tina. Like, come on.
Okay, a floppy. That's a hard one to explain these days. Like a thumb drive, do people still use those?
So I think the easiest way to describe it is like a thumb drive. So you stick it, back then, computers had these like cutouts.
Like a CD drive. They don't have those anymore.
They don't have those anymore either, but similar. So before the CD drive, these things were popular. And it was literally this like square plasticky thing.
It used to be floppy back in the day, like actual floppy. You were probably not even old enough to know that.
No, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I know they were hard.
No, before they were hard, they were floppy. It was like a real floppy disk. That's why they called it a floppy disk. And then they evolved to be like a smaller, more compact, and a hard-cased disc.
And then eventually we led to the thumb drive, and now we just
I don't know what they use
everything.
now. Oh, AirDrop. Is that what they do now? Email,
yeah. See, I told you you'd be the better person to describe a floppy.
Cloud. They use the cloud.
This is true.
This is like the cloud. Before the cloud was in existence.
Huh.
Kinda.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway.
Hang on. All right, so at this point, I want I want the police to tell this guy any kind of lies to catch him.
He apparently doesn't know how investigations work. Police only have to obey the law while they're investigating. It's not against the law to tell a killer that floppy disks can't be traced. And by the way, floppy disks can absolutely be traced. And were detectives going to tell the killer? Heck no.
Because they want to lock him up. Police responded by putting a personal ad in the local newspaper, the Wichita Eagle. Tina, tell our listeners, see here, I was just blatantly
just making me do the work.
Dangle the carrot. Tina, tell our listeners what a personal ad is, because I feel like I still can't believe these things were like a thing back in the day.
Okay, I'm trying to put this in modern terms, which is hard because we don't really have similar things like it anymore. It's like a Craigslist ad in the local newspaper. Is Craigslist still a thing?
I don't know.
I also can't believe personal ads were a thing, but I do remember seeing them. Man seeking a woman to date, a woman seeking a man. You would list your interests and your age and leave a way for someone to contact you if they were interested. Personal ads were sort of the archaic version of Tinder.
Is that the swipe thing?
Mm-hmm. Except without the swiping, without the pictures, and without instant communication.
You just have to thumb through a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And these didn't have pictures either.
No, there were no pictures. That's scary, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you just have to like, you have to just take their word that they're good looking. Who would respond to these things, I wonder?
I don't know.
It has to be, I would probably think it was a scam, you know?
Yeah, but back then, maybe there weren't like scammy things.
Crazy
times.
Yeah, crazy times for sure.
All right, so as for the personal ad, BTK had asked to be referred to as Rex in the personal ad, so he would know that communication was in fact from police and not for some random out there who was looking to hook up or something. Did that make you laugh? Why did that make you laugh?
I just missed that. I missed that part of your notes when I was looking over them.
What can I say?
Did you add that?
No.
Some random looking for a hookup.
Does it surprise you that I would write that?
No.
So the ad that police put in the paper read, Rex, it'll be okay. Contact me. And then gave a P.O. box address with how he could reach out. And police say they were also able to get some surveillance video of BTK from the Home Depot store, thanks to the employee who found the box in his pickup truck. Now, the video was super grainy and like fuzzy, so you can't get 100% identification of the person, but police were able to get some shots of the suspect's car, and his car was a dark-colored Jeep Cherokee.
This is amazing. They're making progress and the killer is making mistakes. And this is exactly what they were hoping for.
2 weeks after putting the ad in the newspaper, a Fox TV station in Wichita got a package from BTK.
Jen, He's watching another news station. First it was ABC, now it's Fox. Another opportunity for NBC or CBS to be the most watched news station for non-serial killers.
Did you do promos?
I did not do promos.
I feel like you should have totally done promos.
Also,
gosh.
Detectives are excited, and I thought this part was funny. The detective admits to driving over the speed limit to get to the TV station and pick up that note.
Heck yeah. Needless to say, police were itching to get their hands on the package, which contained a floppy disk and a small postcard from BTK. Gotcha now, sucker.
And I'm on the edge of my seat. We're watching B-roll of someone handing off the disc to someone else to analyze it. There's tense music playing in the background. What are they going to find?
Police took this floppy disk back to headquarters and put it into one of their computers. And when the floppy disk opened up, there was only one document on the disk, a Word file labeled test. And within minutes, a forensic computer expert was able to figure out that the software was licensed to Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita, Kansas. Now, that same computer expert was able to figure out that the document was printed by a user named Dennis.
A church. I'm telling you, Jen, I'm going to start walking into church and side-eyeing everybody. This is crazy. The Gainesville serial killer was caught because a woman remembered him from her church.
Yep.
And now this serial killer is a church member. These are wolves in sheep's clothing, hiding in the places you would least suspect them, and I hate it.
Yep. All right, so who is Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita, Kansas? Well, you gotta love technology because a quick Google search turned up the name President of the Congregation, Mr. Dennis Rader.
The freaking president of the congregation. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds pretty important.
It does.
It sounds like this guy is in charge of important church things and is probably around a ton of people and kids.
Yep. And at this point, a picture has popped up on the screen of Dennis Rader, and seeing him just gives me the creeps. In my opinion, some people probably aren't going to find this very kind of me to say, but I think he deserves it. So in my opinion, he looks like Elmer Fudd from the Looney Tunes. He's got these yellow buck teeth, this receding hairline. He's got on some big wireframe glasses and a dirty looking mustache. And I feel like he should be shouting, "Be wary, quiet. I'm hunting wabbits." And I cannot stand this fella at all.
He reminds me of the creepy man from the original Jurassic Park that tries to escape the park with the dinosaur DNA in a shaving cream bottle.
Yep.
And then the cute little dino pops up next to him in the car, and then he hisses and turns into an ugly gremlin and kills him. That's who that guy reminds me of.
Yep.
And detectives say he looks normal. When I'm looking at this picture, his eyes look very dark to me. And I wouldn't want to be alone in a room with this guy. He would kind of creep me out.
Police instantly want to know everything about Dennis Rader. They checked all state and national databases and didn't turn up anything. Turns out Dennis Rader was a husband, a father. He worked as a compliance officer for the city. He handed out citations to people if their grass was too tall or if their dogs were a nuisance. And of course, police wanted to post up on Rader and watch his every single move. So they hit the road to his house. Now, Rader lived in a small white and brown house, and we see pictures of it on the show. Icicle Christmas lights hung around the front of the roof. A brown van was parked in the driveway. And what was behind that brown van? A dark-colored Jeep Cherokee.
Ding, ding, ding. And the house also reminds me of the Long Island serial killer's house.
Right? I had that too. If you guys haven't listened to our Long Island serial killer episodes, we've got a couple of them. They are some of my favorite episodes to listen to because I think just the information is just
Fascinating.
incredible. Yeah. Even though police at this point had their suspect in their crosshairs, an arrest was not made that day.
because they need more evidence and they can't chance messing up anything in this investigation. It has to be done correctly to ensure a strong case in court.
Back at the police station, investigators were trying to figure out how to get a hold of Rader's DNA. And that's when police found out that one of his children, his daughter, had a checkup done at Kansas State University where she was a student. And a DNA sample was taken from her at the time of the exam. Now, investigators were able to get a hold of that DNA and hope that her DNA would be the familial match to the killer, meaning like they can see that she is in fact related to the killer. And investigators ran her DNA against the DNA that was left at the crime scene, and boom, Dennis Rader is the serial killer known as BTK. The DNA is a match. They've got him.
Detective Otis says this was the happiest moment of his life, and what a relief that they finally found the killer.
So the next morning, it's February 25th of 2005. 31 years since the Otero family was killed. The Wichita SWAT team, the task force, including Detective Otis, Detective Gouge, and Detective Ralph, rolls out and heads to North Independence Street where Rader's home is. Now, let's talk about the takedown, okay? Detective Otis says police were lined up on the side streets near Independence Street, and Rader had a schedule. He was a creature of habit. Every day, around the same time, he would go home from work for lunch.
There's also a helicopter watching Rader, following him, giving police information on where exactly he is as he's driving home.
And on his way home, he's getting closer. And then police see the Jeep Cherokee with Rader in the driver's seat. And he's stopped on the side of the road and police surround him. Shotguns are pointed at Rader. The adrenaline is pumping for everyone at the scene. Detectives grab Rader and throw him on the ground. And he lays face down in the street. And then Detective Gouge has the honors of putting cuffs on him. Now, Detective Otis says that Rader is tall, he's kind of stocky, and remember, I think he looks like Elmer Fudd, to be honest, but Rader is wearing his city compliance uniform, and he says to police, "Gentlemen, would someone please go tell my wife I won't be home for lunch? I assume you know where I live."
Please, as if investigators aren't already headed there to look for more evidence.
Rader is taken to the police station and brought into an interview room. The camera rolls as he sits across from an FBI agent and a homicide lieutenant. And we see some of the interrogation video, and Rader is quick to talk, saying, "As a suspect, I assume you already have something on me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have brought me in." And in the video, Rader is seen sipping a drink and casually talking to police like it's just an ordinary day at the office. And this was until police told Rader that they caught him by using his daughter's medical samples against him. And at this point, police tell Rader that they know it's him and tell him, "Say who you are." And Rader sits there calmly with his left hand against his chin and kind of like takes a moment and then says, "BTK." And after the admission, Rader would not shut up. It's like he was proud of what he did.
He talked for hours. For 30 years, this guy has hidden his psychotic self from the world, and now he's word vomiting everything. It's understandably upsetting for police to have to listen to this, but the more he talks, the more evidence they get.
Dennis Rader pled guilty to murdering 10 people, and in August of 2005, he was sentenced to a minimum of 175 years in prison.
Detective Otis says this is Rader's worst punishment. Not that he's in prison, but that no one gives a crap about him anymore. They caught him. He's behind bars, and he can't play his narcissistic games anymore.
And you may have remembered I had mentioned 53-year-old Maureen Hedge, who was killed in 1985. Remember her from way back in the episode? Mm-hmm. Turns out Miss Hedge actually lived on the same street as Dennis Rader. She was his neighbor. And turns out that Rader's daughter was actually the one who told police she suspected her dad of killing Miss Hedge. Now, this was not mentioned in the show, but like I said before, like I know a lot about the case, and that is something that I find truly fascinating. His daughter ended up tipping police to her dad for another murder.
And we've mentioned Rader's daughter before. Her name is Carrie Rawson, and we talked about her on the episode called The Wife Speaks, the Long Island Serial Killer. Carrie is the one who met with Victoria, who is the daughter of the Long Island serial killer, to help Victoria cope with finding out that her father, Rex, was the Long Island serial killer. Carrie and Victoria were around the same age when each of their fathers were arrested for being serial killers. And I feel for both of them. I can't imagine what a nightmare it would be to learn my father was a serial killer. That's heavy trauma.
It really is. And to close out the show, I want to quote Detective Ralph because what he said really resonated with me. He said, "This man that had infected my childhood, he was done. Few people get the chance to vanquish their tormentors like that. Very few people get to slay their childhood dragons." Well said, Detective Ralph.
Agreed. What an amazing accomplishment to catch a serial killer, help him get convicted, do good for society, and save lives. Job well done.
Seriously. If you would like to learn more about the BTK case and hear from survivors of BTK, let us know. I would love to do another episode on the case. I am and have always been fascinated by this case because BTK himself was an ordinary person who managed to go undetected for more than 30 years. Today, we've just started unpacking the madness of this case. We've barely touched the surface, but there's so many other details that I know I would love to share with all of you guys. So if you'd like to hear more, send us an email, send us a message on Instagram, on Facebook, and let us know.
I'd like to hear more from his daughter. Do you think we could find a show that interviews her?
I could try to find a show where I can actually reach out to her.
That would be interesting.
I could reach out to her.
Yeah, that would be great.
Cool. All righty. I will get working on that. All right, everyone. Well, if you haven't already done so, please follow us and hit that subscribe button. We're also on Instagram, Facebook. You can email us to crimenewsies@gmail.com. And we will see you guys again next week for another episode.
Bye.